Work ethic is important. I think everyone kind of associates that with like the physical piece because that is like it's very challenging. Like working hard is hard. But I think that there's other types of work ethics too that I think I get just as equally inspired by. Like I really like music. I like poetry. I like paintings and art, and I like comedy. That's like its own art in its own. And I like really anything, whether it involves some type of physicality or doesn't, where people are using just all of their life's energy and work ethic and focus in their life to go in a direction that they want to like be something great at.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
So everyone, just in case you didn't know, I'm here with Cory Sandhagen. I'm not sure what you're ranked in the UFC. I think top three.
Now.
Yeah.
Yep, 3 now.
But probably the most exciting fighter to watch in the sport right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's funny because Chito Vera was probably one of my favorite. We'll just say he was my favorite fighter. We even named one of our chickens after him.
Oh, really? That's
yeah.
fun.
And because my wife was like, "Who's your favorite fighter?" And at the time, he had just been on Rogan. I like his mindset for the discipline. You know, I don't know how much you've heard him talking, but he, goes to bed early. He just trains like a beast.
Yeah.
And I was just really digging his mentality, and he's fun. He had just beat Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was really liking him, and I still love you, buddy. But when you beat him, and when I saw you wearing the SHEATH shirt on the Embedded, I was like,
You wanted to flip the bet?
Yeah, I just switched teams a little bit. I was already a fan, of yours, because you've been going through the division and fighting people, with, like I said, I was just watching the TJ Dillashaw fight over again, and it was a split decision loss on your part, but it was pretty clear if you just look at both of your faces who won. But maybe you went and rewatched it again. How do you feel about that?
I've watched that fight so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess with that fight, I definitely won the fight, and he maybe has an argument for winning the bout. Like it's a sport at the same time as it's like an actual two guys going in and trying to hurt each other. There's a sport side of that, and like how to win in the eyes as far as like the aesthetic goes, which wasn't really on my radar until after that fight. And that was just something that I needed to kind of just keep in the back of my head, is it's like, hey, even though no one's doing anything to you and they're behind you with the body lock, aesthetically it doesn't look like a spot where I'm winning. So just figuring that out. That one really burned to lose that one. I really wanted to win that fight.
Yeah, because he actually was my favorite fighter. Even after the PED thing, so like he looks like a fucking I don't know, he looks really strong. And I think I would fight in 135 if I were a fighter, just for my size, maybe 125. But he was just a killer. He's
good.
Yeah.
And he's like exciting to watch.
Yes.
That's why I think 135 and kind of, I mean, a lot of the weight classes are special in their own way. But I think 135 is like a super special weight class because most of us are cutting from around like 160, 165-ish. And that's like a normal sized person, so you have like a really, like there's a big demographic of people in that weight range that are like athletic, that maybe couldn't have gone and done other sports because in other sports you got to be big.
Yeah.
So you're getting like a higher percentage of really athletic guys that just weren't able to do other sports just because other sports require a different type of physical build. So you just have like these freak athlete guys that cut down to 135 and then just are extremely athletic and dynamic and really fun to watch.
Yeah, but you're just not 7 foot tall, so you can't be in the NBA.
Exactly.
I wanted to be in the NBA when I was 13, and I used to play all day, every day, like all day meaning like 4 hours a day. And I put my heart and soul into that sport, but look.
Yeah, you're short.
Yeah, I'm too short.
I was short growing up too, but NBA was my plan A. Like
Yeah.
I was telling my parents, I was like, look, I'm playing in the NBA. Like I don't, if Earl Boykins can do it, if Allen Iverson, who's only 6 foot tall, if Spud Webb can do it, then like I can do it. So that was always my plan A too. I would be at the park playing all day in my garage when it would be snowing outside. I'd be dribbling basketballs in my garage.
Your left hand, probably.
Yep,
Yeah.
both hands. But I was a little, too tiny for that.
Do you think that helped at all with the way you fight now? By you seem kind of like an ambidextrous style.
I definitely do. I think that the coordination involved in basketball is really important, but I also think that I grew up playing like all of the sports.
Okay.
Like literally, I think all of them. Like basketball, hockey, football, baseball. Wall ball, dodgeball. Like I was at daycare a lot. Like my parents worked a lot, so I was at like daycare from like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. like for a lot of my childhood, and that was like all we did was like play games at that. Play sports and play games at all of that. So I think that kind of like there's a lot of studies too done on kids that grow up playing a lot of sports and how much more dynamic they are as far as an athlete goes when they get a little bit older. So
you carry it with you.
Yeah.
It translates.
But they say though that when you're a kid, you're supposed to play as many sports as you can, and then you're supposed to start specializing in something when you turn like 16, 17, 18 years old. Because if all you do is wrestle your entire life, because you should see some of these wrestlers try to catch a ball or throw a ball. It's completely embarrassing,
Stiff.
Yeah, they just don't they never did it, so they don't understand it, because whoever it was, whether it was them or their parents or whatever, just stuck them in the one routine of wrestling, and their bodies got really good at doing that, but not really good at other things. So, but yeah, I grew up playing a lot of those types of sports. I think that's why I'm able to like move my body and just be really coordinated compared to, I don't know, maybe the average Joe.
Yeah, a couple of directions we could go here. One, I see the Dagestanians, they'll be like playing basketball in between. They don't dribble, I don't think. But sometimes. But so that kind of loosens you up a little bit, maybe, because they're all like pretty hardcore wrestling. And then what do you
Yeah, I would actually be really interested to see what that part of the world is like. I know that a lot of the Eastern European countries are very good at combat sports because they grow up doing a lot of that stuff, and I can't really think of a sport that's more dynamic as far as like reaction time, moving your body in a certain way, being quick, being strong, than like striking and wrestling. But I do know that judo is really big. Like every combat sport is
Sambo.
Pretty big. Yeah, all kinds of combat sports are really big in the Eastern European countries. I was on the WKA US team in like 2014, and we went over to Italy and did a world tournament there, and that was my first time really being exposed to like the amateur scene in a different country.
I don't know what that is.
World Kickboxing Association.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was on their US team in 2014. We all went over, we did the world tournament in Italy. But you watch so many matches, because in tournament kickboxing it's just like match, your turn, match, your turn again. So I was watching a lot of these Eastern European guys even before they came into the UFC or anyone in the US really knew who they were, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are really, really good. And then I started to learn that like just that part of the world really teaches their kids young to do all types of combat sports: striking, wrestling, sambo, judo, all of those.
Yeah. And like when you devote your entire self to a particular, like just fighting in general or anything, you're going to be leagues ahead of people that start way later in life. And like one thing I like about combat sports and the UFC and fighters is you have to dedicate all of your attention to that in order to be competitive. And being a business owner, I feel like it's just inspirational because I'm looking at you guys, you're fighting, and I see the training and the work ethic that goes into your profession. And I'm like, I need to step up my shit, you know?
I think everyone kind of, I think as long as, for me, it's, you know, like work ethic is important. I think everyone kind of associates that with like the physical piece because that is like, it's very challenging. Like working hard is hard. But I think that there's other types of work ethics too that I think I get just as equally inspired by. Like I really like music. I like poetry. I like paintings and art, and I like comedy. That's like its own art in its own. And I like really anything, whether it involves some type of physicality or doesn't, where people are using just all of their life's energy and work ethic and focus in their life to go in a direction that they want to like be something great at. Like I think that that's super special.
I'm trying to get better at public speaking. So I've been going to this, it's called Toastmasters, and it's like a public speaking exercise club.
Cool.
So I had to memorize a speech recently, and I got best speech for the day. But the mental discipline to rehearse over and over, it's like, it kind of hurts. I would rather just go run. It's like easier for me to do physically hard work than it is to do mental hard work.
Okay.
So
no, I would actually I would argue that that's the same for me too. Like getting me sometimes to do a visualization, because I do stay in like a pretty regimented thing when I'm in training camp. It's kind of like I gotta sometimes yank myself up and be like, do your visualization now.
Yeah.
You know, but like going to the gym isn't like physical stuff. It's like, yeah, cool. Like once you get warmed up, it's like enjoyable, all of this. But yeah, some of that mental stuff can be just as fatiguing, but I think it's equally as important as all of that other stuff.
So important. Like I was telling you when we first like started communicating that I had made some vision boards. And
that was really awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is that? Sorry, go ahead and tell the story before we start talking about it.
Well, you were on this year's vision board, and here we are talking, which that's happened so many times. I've made a vision board every year since I made my first one in 2008 in Iraq. I made my first vision board in Iraq in 2008, and, and so many things happen. Like they come true or come to fruition, and not every single one. Still waiting for that 50 mil. But then, you know, some happen faster than others. It's very strange. But when it comes to visualization, you know, one of the guys that I have heard does it on a pretty serious level is Henry Cejudo.
Oh, cool.
And he'll maybe he like acts out the whole experience, and then all the way till the victory, and you know, with his hands in the air or getting his hand raised at the end of the fight and stuff. And I feel you can manifest, like we have more power than we think we do. I'm not sure though.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
You know, like if I say 10,000 times I will be champion, I become champion, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but what if the other guy says 10,000 times too?
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of dynamics there. But yeah, that's actually really, I didn't know that about Henry, but that makes sense. You know, him being like with the I could only like imagine being an Olympic athlete, because you probably have so many resources when you're an Olympic athlete. And he was an Olympic athlete when he was 17 or 18 or whatever, however old he was. So I could just imagine the amount of resources and like tidbits that and just like secrets that he has inside of him that unfortunately I can't ask him.
He's coaching, but now I don't know, I guess he's not coaching anymore. I don't know.
I mean, he wouldn't coach me.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to be fighting soon, maybe, so.
Anyways, you know, I don't know. I'm thinking back to the vision board thing and how I put you on there because there was this picture of you and you're just like meditating, and it was I've been meditating a lot lately, and I try to find like a zero space where I'm shutting my mind off. But you were telling me how you are doing like these guided meditations and
I do. I like doing there's a guy named Michael Seeley on YouTube. You should try it. I think you'd really like it, especially if you have like some experience with meditation where you kind of already know how to be quiet. But there's this guy, Michael Seeley, on YouTube who he has so many videos. A lot of them are for sleep, but there's like just so many ones. And I really like the ones where he kind of just takes you on like a guided imagination tour of whatever the thing is. Like some of them are find your spirit animal and explore the Akashic records, or like go on like some cosmic trip through like a time portal type of thing. And I really like those ones because I've always had like a really good imagination. Like I might not be like the friendliest or most empathetic person in the world, but I really have like I think a special ability to like put myself in someone else's shoes. So like, and that's just is because I have an imagination. I don't know why. I feel like that's maybe one of my superpowers a little bit, but I really like just having him guide me through all of that and just like seeing what pops up in my brain. It's really interesting, and I've had some super, I won't say life-changing experiences, but stuff where I'm just like, oh, I didn't know that was in there, you know?
Yeah.
So
we were just watching the new Graham Hancock series on Netflix, where he's going to all the different ancient pyramids and stuff. It made me think we need to do a photo shoot on every ancient, wonder of the world, and go to the pyramids and go to Göbekli Tepe or something and do a SHEATH photo shoot. I thought that would be pretty cool.
That would be super cool. I just listened to this guy, Paul Rizzoli. He like lives in the Amazon forest. He was on Lex Friedman's podcast.
Okay.
That was super cool too.
Paul Rizzoli. Why?
I think, yeah, Paul Rizzoli. I don't know how you say his last name, but his name was Paul Rizzoli, I think. But just like his experience in the Amazon, like the world is so big and so massive, and there's so many just like amazing, cool places to go to. But yeah, if you guys do that photo shoot, I'll be there too if you have
the model.
me. Yeah, I don't know what type of model I would make, but
I think it would be good. Brandon Moreno modeled for us in SHEATH, and it's cool because he had the belt,
Oh, nice.
And it's in that booklet. I don't know why it's not on the cover. Michael Malice is on the cover. We should have Moreno on the cover, but it's, this is just something that I'm super into. I'm a big fan of the sport, and like you, a big fan of comedy and probably Joe Rogan and all things Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people we work with are people that I've found through him. He's like our modern day Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
And if you make it on Rogan, you're like a made man.
Yeah.
And you've been on twice, which is pretty cool. How has that affected you?
Great. I feel like the first time I really didn't know what to expect. This go around, I kind of knew what to expect a lot more, so I was able to do it better. But I think Joe Rogan is a super special part of like just the world climate right now, because he's such, in my opinion, a really reasonable guy. He is super honest, and I can't really imagine a day and age, at least in my like short 30 years on the planet, where there's been a figure that has been able to cover as much ground as he has without being like crushed by the big man.
They're trying.
Yeah, he is. They are trying, and they're failing, which is so awesome because, like I said, I think that he's like a reasonable voice. He's like, and that's I think why people love him and why I love him. And when he asked me to come on, I was like, this time I was almost expecting it a little bit though, because the same thing. I was like, I bet you if I beat Cheeto and I do it right, like I could see him calling me again.
Nice.
And he did. Really cool. Because I know he's a big fan of Cheeto, and I know that he's a big fan of me. Like he's always been really nice and complimentary about just my skills and everything. So I kind of foresaw that one coming. So that was but yeah, I think he's like a super integral, important piece of our world culture that even if you don't like him, I think he's important. There's a lot of people out there that I don't really like that I think are super important too. So
yeah, a lot of yeah. I was gonna say a lot of people don't like Trump, but I went back and he made like an impact in the world, whether you love him or hate him. I went back and listened to your first podcast with Rogan today, and I was like, whoa! It was on March 5th, which is my birthday.
Oh, funny!
And it's just like these little weird coincidences. Like the vision board thing, and I was like, coincidence?
Yeah. I love when those types of things happen.
I know.
Do you ever find that they happen more often when you're like in a certain, like when you're living a certain way?
It's been happening more and more, and I've been meditating on and I think I'm doing it right, and I've just really finding a flow. I have more energy now, and like me and my wife are really kind of getting along a lot better. Great. Whereas before I would get irritated with her a little bit easier, and now it's like my whole brain is working as one unit instead of these fragmented portions. You know how like in those brain scans you'll see like certain parts of the brain lighting up, and that might be a depression part or anxiety part, where I can almost feel it all working as a whole unit. And so I can see things from her perspective, so I don't get mad anymore. You know, I mean, like she's going through something or whatever.
You have more patience too.
Way more patience.
Yeah, way more patience. Yeah.
What about you?
That's the reason that I ask, is because I don't know if it's just in my head, but I do feel like when I am in like a nice, and I can almost like feel it like in my body and just in the way that I'm living, when I'm in like that flow of like just being really mindful and being really present, I start to find that like things like dots start to connect a lot more than when I'm anxious or you know, overworked or not having a fun time in life. And that's been like a giant thing for me in this last camp, especially, is I was like borderline like making myself a psycho because I was putting so much pressure on myself, and just you're cutting weight, you're working hard, you're putting a ton of pressure on yourself. And I almost had like this breaking moment where I was like, if I'm not going to start enjoying this, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. Like it was either like quit or start enjoying it.
Yeah.
And enjoying it, all that meant was do all the same things that I'm doing every day, but just like, don't be grumpy about doing them.
Yeah.
Like, just do them like to your best of the ability, and just like enjoy it as much as you can. As corny as that sound, because when I used to hear people say that before, I used to be like, shut up, man. Like, shut up and just work harder, you know?
Yeah.
But there's actually like a utility to enjoying what you're doing.
But sometimes if you're burnt out and you've been overworking and you're not taking that time to recover your mind and body and spirit through some kind of practice, whether it's meditation or whatever, it's harder. It's easy to say, but then, you know, to just be in a good mood, just enjoy it. Now I'm doing the work, quote unquote, to recover. And I remember it was probably like September of last year, and I'm doing all the same shit. Nothing's really changed. And I would just be like middle of the day, just like, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I have so much more to do, and I know I have more to do, and I don't, and I'm like burnt out. Now I know this might sound corny, but I can just go meditate for 20 minutes and then I'm back and I can finish my day strong. And it's like a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. There's like a utility to it.
Yeah.
That's like before it was kind of like this hippy dippy thing, you know, because I've been doing it for maybe I'm about to be 31, maybe like 10 years now, like 9 or 10 years. And it always seemed like this like hippy dippy thing, but I was like, oh no, like this isn't a hippy dippy thing. This is like eating healthy food. Like it's actually like good for you.
That's
you know
a great
what I mean?
analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be compared to getting a really good night's sleep. Cause I I've been sleeping better, but for the longest time, I was just not sleeping well. When you go to sleep, do you just like conk out?
No, I'm not that guy. I listen to Dune on audiobook, and it puts me to sleep like this, though. And then even if I can't sleep, I'll just listen to the story because I like the story.
Okay.
So it's never like I like listening to audiobooks. They like help me fall asleep, and then I'll wake up and I'll like be missing an hour and forget where it left off, and then I'll just start it from the beginning, or just start it somewhat random in the middle. It helps me a lot.
Okay. What do you put headphones in?
Yep, just my AirPods. Yep.
And you're not married yet, but like, she's just over there, and
she does the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who I got it from.
Oh, okay. Right on. That's really cool. I'm looking at notes just in case, because I didn't want to miss anything. But okay, this could be an interesting segue, because I have done a handful of mind-altering substances in my day, but I don't really like. Typically, I would smoke before a podcast, but I haven't in quite a while, and I didn't for this one, but it was just a habit that I would do. Smoke weed, to be specific.
Not crack. Smoke crack before a podcast.
Yeah, that could be exciting. What was that dude? Charlie Sheen.
Oh yeah, Tiger Blood.
So, yeah. He crashed and burned fast.
Yeah,
though,
that was fast. Yeah, that's what drugs will do.
Yeah, and that's what. So it's not sustainable.
No.
And what is your experience with that?
With like,
anything like psychedelics and not crack. I assume you have not done a whole lot of crack.
No, I haven't. I have never smoked crack. I don't, not that I'm aware of. Yeah, I don't really do much drinking. Like drinking. I think alcohol is really bad. I still will have a drink every now and then or whatever, but I hate the feeling of being hungover. Even if it's like one or two drinks, I like still feel groggy the next day. So I'm not much of a drinker. So if I do like want to relax or whatever, I usually take like a tiny piece of an edible. Because if I take even a medium-sized piece of an edible, I'm just like not enjoying myself at all. So I just take a tiny piece. I like just listening to music, and then like that's more or less how I like to relax in those ways.
Yeah, it's like mushrooms, weed. There's all these, new studies saying all the medicinal benefits, but I've done it, and I've also been sober, and I feel like it's the way to be is like sober. You can maybe do one trip, once, or maybe, annually or something along those lines if that's your bag. But some of these guys that I'm familiar with, every weekend they're tripping.
Yeah.
And like, if you're trying to find peace, but you have to keep taking the thing, is it really working?
Yeah. I agree with you. I almost feel like sometimes in life I will be in like a good groove. Like I'm a pretty routine guy, so for me to kind of like be really at peace, I have to be in a routine. Like that helps me like a lot. But once I'm like in my routine, I can almost, and then like doing my hypnoses, because in those hypnosis, I've like damn near had altered experiences where I'm just like, did I take anything today? Like that type of feeling, or like that type of stuff going on in my brain. And so I'm not crazy about a lot of those things. I definitely understand the utility of all of them. But I almost feel like those hypnosis and like me being in a routine and me eating healthy and me exercising and me pushing forward with my skills and trying to conquer a dream, like that's plenty for me to try to digest in a day.
You're living it.
Yeah.
These people are chasing something that's like it's like a fish, and I have the answer to life, and then it slips away and it's gone again.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's like a level of like them just enjoying the shit out of it. Like they probably just think it's fun as hell, and they're like, that's probably what's happening.
Yeah, and it is fun, and I can attest to that. But there's also like I've been getting to that place through meditation, and I was doing Wim Hof breathing pretty much every day for a couple of years. And having done DMT and ayahuasca, the Wim Hof shit it's like you feel this kind of like explosion in your brain. Have you done it?
DMT?
No, Wim Hof.
Oh,
breathing.
Wim Hof stuff. Yeah, a little bit, but not to the point where I have like any real knowledge about it.
Well, there's a YouTube. He has like YouTube videos, so it's free, and he'll walk you through it. But there's something. I was doing another podcast with this like yogi, like yogi. I forget his name, but it was a really good one, and he told me a trick that really distinguished from just doing what Wim says in the video. So you do the breathing, you 30 breaths, real big breaths, then you exhale, and you kind of hold your exhale for as long as you can, maybe 30 seconds or a minute. And then you re-inhale, hold, but then you squeeze, like you squeeze all your muscles, and then that's when it's just like, and you get this kind of like feeling of peace and comfort. And I haven't been doing it as much because I've found that this meditation practice that I'm doing now gives me that peace, and it's less invasive or whatever. I was talking to this guy, Robbie the Fire Bernstein. He's a podcaster, and he was like, it sounds like you're just depriving your brain of oxygen. And I'm not sure what's true or not, but
well, if it feels good, it feels good.
And it's only 30 seconds, and I don't, of an exhales. The hardest part is you exhale and hold. And what happens supposedly is your CO2 in your blood starts to elevate, which is, there's something with that that I'm not sure what it does, what that means exactly. Although you can't survive without carbon dioxide, which you think you just need oxygen, but you actually need the carbon dioxide. And living in the mountains is interesting because there's less oxygen up here.
How high is it here?
8,500.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So if you ever want to come,
that's great. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Train. We were just hitting the pads, suckers. It was fun. But I can't hold my exhale for more than like 30 seconds.
Oh, interesting.
It is weird. But when I'm at sea level, I can go beyond a minute and a half probably. And you're in Aurora.
It's like 5,400 or something.
Yeah, and that's probably still seems high to people at lower elevation.
Oh, it definitely is. We so the one fights are in a couple weeks.
Yes.
And then the BKFC fights are in not
April
this weekend.
29th.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like a week and a half, and we have like a bunch of those people in town, and they're like training with us, and they're like, "How long does it take?" And I'm like, "Well,
months."
I don't tell them that. I'm like, "Well, when's your fight?" Probably a day before then, because I don't want to. I don't want to. But when I go down and fight at sea level, it's a pretty big change. Like I'm like, oh, this is great.
I could go forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I go visit my family and go for a run, I'm like, I've been running for a while. This is awesome.
I don't do conditioning in like when I visit my family in New York or DC or whatever. I don't do conditioning. I'm just like this, I'll just wait till I get up higher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, for stress, really, I'm hanging out with family. I'm like, I'm going to go for a run.
Yeah.
Mike Perry's fighting
Luke Rockhold.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty cool.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. They were trying to get us to sponsor Mike Perry, and I said, we can't sponsor everyone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
And I just don't know the view, the eyes, what we like about sponsoring fighters. One of the coolest things is weighing in your underwear.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
you can't do that in the UFC.
You can't do that in the UFC. Yeah. And just, I was looking at some of the BKFC stats and views and all this, and it's cool. It's a little brutal though. It's kind of brutal.
They're low?
What's that?
The views are low? What do you mean?
Well, sorry. I went in two different directions. The views are low, and then I went to Mike Perry fighting Michael Venom Page. I don't know if you saw it, but they're just dripping, blood.
Yeah.
And just like gashes, and it's just not it's a little bit too I don't know.
It's pretty barbaric.
Yeah.
Like the idea of, I don't know. It's something about wearing a leather glove that just makes it seem a little bit less crazy.
Yeah, it's a little bit more civilized.
Which even then, it's like, dude, they're not big and they're not very padded. So it's like, I mean, they're decently padded, but I don't know. Maybe it's the aesthetic or something. But I always thought about doing BKFC.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever would unless I was allowed to like elbow people.
They can't elbow?
No, they can't elbow.
Weird.
All they could do is punch. Isn't that strange?
That is.
I think it should be punches, elbows, and headbutts. That's how they should do that.
Oh my god.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah. And I always think about how like in the UFC, if you could back headbutt,
you can't, but
yeah, you could get out of rear naked chokes.
That's actually a great idea. I had never thought about that. That would actually be really smart.
It could get them to let loose a little bit.
Yeah.
So I know you and Rogan were talking about the different rules, and I mean, it's pretty gentlemanly as it is. Mm-hmm. Like a soccer kick. Mm-hmm. And he was like, just figure out how to not get kicked in the head. And it's fine. I would still watch it. You know what I don't like is the slapping thing.
Yeah. I think it's gonna get a little bit old pretty soon. MMA stays interesting because it's like this evolving art form, you know, and there's a lot of different styles to it. The matchups are interesting. There's not a lot of that in Power Slap. You know, I don't want to shit on it because I know Dana's like crazy about it, and I definitely don't want to shit on it. But I think that they'll have to do something to just make it last for a while. So
I mean, it's good for TikTok, I guess, but I'm not gonna pay for to watch like a pay-per-view or something.
If I'm a 14-year-old kid, I'm watching that like every week.
Yeah,
you know, like every week. Yeah, if I'm but I think it's gonna just they're gonna have to figure out ways to like keep it interesting. I think if it wants to really last, because how many times can you watch the same thing? You know, like people get knocked out by a slap over. Like how many times can you watch that before you're like, all right, let me watch something else?
That's interesting because I probably watch not every fight from every UFC every weekend, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, how are you still watching this? It's like, but it's different every time, you know. It's not like it doesn't get boring to me. I'm still like, whoa, and I feel like sometimes I'm in the fight, depending on who's fighting. I'm like, whoa, block, move, you know.
Yeah.
And
that's how I get to when I watch my buddies. I'll be like, yeah.
What was I don't know. I really enjoy it. I mean, people that watch football, it's like, dude,
I hate watching football. I wouldn't mind watching football if there wasn't so many breaks.
Yes.
It's like a 8-second play maybe, and then like a 3-minute break, and then another thing.
Yeah.
I can't stand that.
Yeah, it doesn't keep my attention.
No.
I'm gonna take a nap.
I went to a Avs game early in this season, and I'm not really super into any sports, because anytime I watched any type of sports, it was just because I wanted to learn. So I went to a hockey game, and hockey's actually pretty awesome.
Okay.
I would like to get into it, but I don't really have the energy to like care about things ever, like TV shows, sports. I can't get myself to care about them.
We've been watching Naked and Afraid.
I like Naked and Afraid.
Yeah, that's fun.
You ever watch Alone?
Yeah.
Alone's badass.
Yeah, they go crazy after a while.
I know. I couldn't imagine. I enjoy going camping, but 2 nights, I'm like, I need to talk to someone. And I'm not even that much of a chatty guy, you know? So I couldn't imagine those guys. They're going like a month without seeing anyone. That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't sleep well enough in a nice bed with a pillow and a blanket. If I'm naked, I'm like, I'm going to die in like 3 days.
Seriously.
So, but it's all that's interesting too. We've watched like every episode from every season, and I'm still like, how are you still watching this? I don't know. I like it. It's just there's something, the perseverance of these people. And when they finally get picked up by the truck at the end, and they're so happy.
Yeah.
I love that. So on this year's vision board, I got you and you're meditating, but on a lot of my old ones, I would have the moment of a victory, like after you won, you're just like, That is something like that feeling I would never really understand, but I could imagine it's pretty badass.
It's pretty awesome. I really like watching like the Grammys and not and the Oscars and stuff. Not because I know what's going on, because I'm not like I never know the movies or anything or the actors or anyone. But I really like just watching like those people accomplish their dreams.
Nice.
And like what they say and just how they look, and like I really love like that. And I love it like I love it in MMA too, when I'm like, wow, that was important to that guy.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a really special thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell sometimes when someone needed the win more than the other fighter too, and it's like, okay, he needed that.
Yeah.
He was on a 3-fight loss streak or whatever, and the other dude's been winning and he barely lost. Maybe he didn't even get like knocked out or submitted. It was just a decision for the other guy. So, and in those cases, like with you and TJ, for instance, you didn't lose. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, even though he won, and everybody that saw knows that you didn't lose.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Although it can fuck with your career.
It can, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's like the scariest piece about it, is because, okay, so I was in a position where I needed to win a fight when I fought Song, because I had knocked out Marlon, Frankie, and then I fought TJ, lost a close one, fought Jan on short notice, lost a close one.
Yeah.
And regardless of like the way that I lost, they gave me Song, who was like number 10 or like even below that in the rankings, and I was like, you know, they're either doing this for me or they're doing this for Song, you know. But the UFC is really good at putting themselves in win-win positions, because if I win, that's great. If he wins, it's great too. So for them at least. So I felt like I was in that position against Song, and it was just that was like a special place to be in, where it's like, hey man, you can't lose 3 times in a row in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't lose 3 times in a row in the UFC. Like, it's just not, like, you're fighting way down, or they're just kind of giving you a cut off, you know, where they're maybe not cutting you, but they're like putting you in a different pool of fighters than the one that you were in before. So yeah, that type of feeling is a special one, and it makes it like really satisfying when you win the one where it's like, ooh, if I would have lost that, really not good.
Yeah. I like PFL.
Yeah, PFL is great.
Yeah, I mean, I watched, I don't watch it like on every time it comes on, but the championship, that last, the pinnacle, whatever, that was pretty fun. I watched that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, because they're going to win $1 million.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about your mindset, because you were talking about it like recently, but like that it shifted in the not too distant past, how you were like just had to like shift from, I guess, being kind of like comfortable to like it's me or him, you know.
My mindset changes every day.
Yeah.
I do a lot of reading, so I like
yeah.
pick up things, you know, here and there all the time. But yeah, so before, okay, so I'll like, as far as the timeline goes, let's say before I was fighting Aljamain Sterling, or it'll be more interesting if I describe it in this way. When I lost my first professional fight, I was 5-0, probably going to get picked up by the UFC had I won that fight. Competed horribly. Didn't know why. Like, didn't have enough self-awareness to like know how I was feeling, knowing why I was feeling certain ways. If I could even pinpoint a feeling that I was having at the age of like 22 or however old I was when I lost. And so that made me go down this, and this is why I love fighting, is because it's always translated super well into like my other aspects of life. But not having like self-awareness really screwed me over. So I was like, okay, let me try to get that.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in the mountains by myself, trying to learn about myself, trying to think about like all the indoctrinated ideas that have been put in me, that everyone has put in them as their kids and raised in certain societies and ways of living. Tried to figure all of that out. Tried to figure out like who am I, like down in like my core, like who I am in my essence. Spent a lot of time like trying to develop a lot of self-awareness in like those 6 or 7 months after I lost my first fight, because I was like, fuck that, I don't want to lose again, let me get this down. So I did really good with that. It put me on like this journey of studying Buddhism, studying Hinduism, studying all of those religions that really hammer home the idea of like self-awareness, letting go of the ego, not being attached to like material things or really anything. Put me in like a whole, wormhole of going down that for a few years. Made me a really peaceful guy. Made me like a really mindful, super peaceful guy. Fought Aljamain Sterling, and went into the fight just way too peaceful. Way too, like when I was looking across from Aljamain, he looked like he hadn't, like if he was a dog, it was like he hadn't eaten in like a month, and I didn't feel that way. And so then I was like, okay, well, I lost that. Fuck that. I don't like losing. What do I need to figure out now about fighting? And then so it became, how do I figure out this entire dark piece about fighting? And I use the term dark in like a loose way, not like demons and stuff, but like, how do I turn myself into like this, like brutal person that is willing, capable, because I already was capable. So it's more like the willingness to put myself into a space where I could really go out there and demolish someone and like make it dark, like hurt them bad. And so how do I discover that about myself? And then I discovered that about myself, and I use myself as like kind of like, I think that we're all like this. I just have a little bit of experience in that area, because maybe everyone hasn't had to do it as far as like just their life, but I had to do it in my life. So I figured out the whole dark piece, rode that wave for a while, and then knocked Marlon out, knocked Frankie out, did like okay against TJ, did really well against Jan, except for when I got dropped. Things changed in that fight. Did pretty decent against Song, but then I started to realize in the Song fight that dark dude that was going in there was starting to distract me. It was starting to kind of like pull me away from being able to compete in a super focused way, because being that dark dude just is like it's like a hot burn, and it's hard to maintain. And like I said, if you're just having any feeling you have, you're trying to just cover up with getting pissed, maybe not the best solution long term,
Yeah.
So figured out in that Song fight that those types of feelings were being distracting. And then into this Cheeto one, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a little bit less of that. Even though I've had success with it, I'm going to be a little less of that because I can feel it being distracting. So how do I need to be now? And it's kind of like a balance of the two. And the way that I feel that balance is just by being super mindful and trying to enjoy this process a little bit more. And me enjoying it gives me a lot more space for me to be how I gotta be, depending on whatever given moment it is, whether it's in the fight or in training or whatever. If I'm enjoying it, I feel like I just have a lot more of an ability to capture whether I gotta be dark guy right now or I gotta be super focused guy or a mesh in between. And sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's kind of that entire journey for me, more or less.
Nice. Yeah, because it's hard to maintain like a super hot flame metaphorically, because it's going to burn everything around it, and then it turns into ashes.
Yeah.
You need to be able to sustain a nice sized flame that, I feel like we have something like that within us, a fire that burns within us, and eventually it's going to go out when we die. But it's like, what is keeping us alive? Like it's just our heart and stuff, but there's some sort of electricity happening that it's not tangible. and it's like the spirit or the consciousness.
Life is so dynamic. It's almost not even worth trying to figure out.
It is
worth
a lifetime.
Multiple lifetimes probably.
Nice. All right, that's not too bad of timing then.
It's on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So. That mindset, fighting, business, books. What are you reading right now?
I'm revisiting The Power of Now.
Oh, okay.
Have you read
Eckhart Tolle. I love him.
Yeah,
he got me through some dark times.
Yeah, seriously. He was actually the first person that helped me discover like that awareness piece. Because after I lost that fight, my coach was really into Eckhart Tolle. So he was like, hey, read this book. And I was like, okay. So I have it on audiobook also, and his voice is kind of funny, so I'll listen to it.
I watched his YouTube videos for the longest time, and he would always do these question and answer.
Yeah.
And I'd cry. I'm like this weird, it's not like I'm sad, it's like I'm so happy, or like it's so meaningful. And he's doing such a good thing for the world, especially for those that need his message at the time. You know,
he's awesome.
He's so great.
He's amazing. His voice is kind of weird, but it's almost like it's weird, but not because it's bad, but it's because it's like different. So like I love listening to the audiobook. I'm in my life I probably have listened to that audiobook somewhere between 10 and 15 times from like start to finish.
I need to get the audiobook because I have the book and I just watched his YouTube videos and he talked about. It's like taking acid.
Yeah.
The lights, when you're in the now, and your mind isn't constantly just running through the different tasks or problems or worries and loops.
Yeah.
Fucking loops.
Yeah.
Are so annoying when they're negative.
I know.
It's like, I already fucking thought of this 1,000 times.
I know.
And that's what I love about meditation, and it kind of helps me stop those loops.
Nice. That's good.
But I want to maybe I'll get that book.
It's a great, you haven't read it before?
The audio.
Okay.
And it's been a while. This was 2015.
It's been a while since I've read it too, or listened to it. It is phenomenal.
Okay.
It is like so good. But yeah, so I was reading that, or I'm listening to that now because I finished Dune, which like took me forever because it's like this big and I'm a pretty slow reader. But Dune was awesome.
When I was growing up, I feel like there was a movie.
Yeah, there's an older movie and then there's like a new one.
There's a new one? But tell me what you think about both of them.
I haven't seen the old one. I didn't watch the new one until after I finished the book, so it was like pretty recently, and I actually liked it. Okay. I thought it was like, it's kind of moody. It's got like a moody feel to it, but that kind of like pairs well, I think, with the book. Everything was pretty like close to, obviously the book's always a lot more descriptive, but I thought it was like, as far as like books to movies go, I thought it was pretty good.
Nice.
Like pretty good. The book is phenomenal though.
Okay.
Especially if you're into like combat and like anything fight related, because the plot of the story is there's Paul Atreides who, spoiler alert, in the first movie, his like dad passes away, so he's pretty much the new guy. But then there's this other like group of people that are trying to take over the land of Arrakis, which is like, they have this spice there that is worth a lot of money. So it's pretty much this battle over who can control the spice. And then, so it's like a battle. It's like a war story. So there's like a lot of really good like tidbits about like politics, a really good
interesting
bit about religion, a lot in there about like combat and just like fighting.
Wow.
It's a pretty well-rounded book. It's really good.
Okay. Yeah, follow your inspiration too. Follow your bliss is one of the...
Joseph Campbell.
Booyah.
I love Joseph Campbell.
I love Joseph Campbell.
He's
a
man.
Gangster of all gangsters. Those Mythos or whatever. I don't know if you watched his talks.
The ones, they were on Amazon for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you have to pay for them now, which is a shame because I think everyone should watch those. There's like 6 videos and they were,
He's just giving talks about the art and ancient cultures, mindsets.
He got me super into mythology. Like there was like 3 or 4 years of my life when I was like super into mythology, and not only that, but I like wrote out my own hero's journey one time.
Yes.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, and that's what the Star Wars movies were based off of.
A lot of them. Harry Potter too. Yep, a lot of them.
Well, you're living the journey, baby. And thank you so much for taking the time to drive down here and hang out with me and hit the pads and have this nice chat.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, I look forward to working with you on your instructional videos. You're the best striker in the UFC at the moment, at least from my... I'm kind of an expert at watching UFC.
Nice.
So I think you're the most exciting and dynamic, and there's hints of Dominic Cruz, but that the ambidextrous style. But you're taking it to that next level, and I want to see you wearing that belt.
Yeah.
And just I think you're going to make it happen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
Thank you, and thank you for watching. We'll be back next time, hopefully as good a guest as this, but check out some of the previous videos, especially the last one with Steven Sato, where he talks about his experience with meditation. Extremely entertaining and kind of insightful. So we'll see you next week. Peace.